San Dimas, 1988, the most bodacious, totally far out city in America, and home of aspiring guitarist Bill S. Preston Esquire and Ted Theodore Logan. They're one bad grade away from flunking history, and they need to ace their history presentation if they're going to pass. That's when a futuristic time-traveling phone booth shows up, piloted by the enigmatic future man Rufus, who tells Bill and Ted that their history report is vital to the evolution of the human race centuries in the future. Armed with a time machine, Bill and Ted travel to various time periods and capture historical figures like Billy the Kid and Napoleon Bonaparte and prepare to give the most excellent history presentation ever in 1989's Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I'm Connor Eyzaguirre.
I'm Julie Cervantes.
And this is 2021's first Filmgazm. Happy Wednesday, listeners, and welcome to 2021. It may not be the best year of our lives, but the bar for better has been set pretty damn low. I'm joined today by guest host Julie Cervantes, who is here with another random draw from the book of Filmgazm, one of the most 80s movies of the 1980s, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Very cool. This was a draw, so fate has willed this movie onto our podcast. Very cool.
I love getting randomness and seeing all these movies that I don't know about. Woo!
So much fun. Before we get started, I do want to remind listeners that last week's super dark and sad Song of the South episode is not the norm for the show. Most of the time, it's upbeat, silly, and we celebrate films. Things got a bit too real last week. So if you tuned in looking for merriment and got bummed out, my apologies. Going forward, most of what we churn out on Filmgazm will be fun and fancy-free. Over on Oscar Sunday, though, shit will get real quite often. And who knows what'll happen on the sneak preview. But Filmgazm will probably never go that far again. Yeah, I know most people probably don't care, but that really got right in my heart. So, happy to be here to talk about Bill and Ted.
Most excellent.
There's no rewind today, so let's jump right in. Julie, prior to this podcast, what did you know about Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure? Anything?
Absolutely nothing, except that I knew who Keanu Reeves is. Because before I watched this, I watched The Matrix with some family back like a couple months ago. And that was my first Keanu Reeves movie. So I think that was a pretty cool start for him.
Yeah, for sure. Keanu has had a very interesting career, and we're going to talk at length about that in a minute here. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure I saw for the first time when I was like 12. And I remember thinking, this is the stupidest shit. I'm a big history buff, and I don't know, something about it just didn't jive with me the first time. But this time, I loved it. So sometimes it takes a second viewing for some movies, you know?
I like movies like this because you don't really like have to know what's going on, like because you could just watch it without knowing anything and still have fun watching it. So yeah.
For sure. And I think that there's very few films that are as 80s as this movie. Like it is so hardcore dated. The way they talk, you know, dude, excellent, bodacious, far out. Like nobody does that anymore.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a movie as 80s as this. Like, I'm trying to think of other 80s movies I've seen. I can't really think of any that put that many, like, words, like, funny words like that. So, yeah.
It's almost like they're trying to remind you, like, hey, future audiences, this is an 80s movie. Like, yeah, really feels like that. Like, they're trying to just shove as much of the decade as they can. And I'm okay with that. I love the 80s.
I'm just now remembering that like most of the 80s movies that I watched was like Ferris Bueller's Day Off and Pretty in Pink. I'm a huge fan of Pretty in Pink, but like they don't talk like that in Pretty in Pink. They just talk normally. I mean, there's some things like, especially how they dress in those movies. They're so like so stylish for the 80s. And so yeah, those are the movies I think of when I think of the 80s. I've never seen anything like this one.
You can always see it. You can always tell what an 80s movie, like when you're watching an 80s movie, just by the way they're dressed, the way they talk. there's something about the 80s that is so unique. And I love that. I think the 80s might be my favorite decade of film. Just all like so many of my favorite films come out of the 80s. You know, Back to the Future, The Goonies, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Ferris Bueller. It's kind of endless. And this movie is definitely up there. I mean, this came out in 1989, so it was the end of the 80s. And it almost like celebrates a decade of just wacky shit. And I love that.
Yeah. I really like The Breakfast Club too. Like I think that was one of the first ones I saw, and like those are, I really like how they make you kind of emotional, like you get emotional, and like I really like the music too, that like a lot of 80s movies incorporate lots of cool music, and especially this one. So yeah, they're like really fun, emotional, they like put you in a place you want to go to. Like I definitely wish I could time travel to the 80s.
Hell yeah, me too. I've always wanted, I mean, my all-time favorite movie is Back to the Future. So I've been wanting to time travel my entire life, especially to the 80s. And yeah, Breakfast Club, I liked it. I haven't really wanted to go back to it. I feel like it's kind of been done at this point. Like, I know this is going to sound very cynical, but I don't really dig movies about teenagers that much. I don't think they're that interesting. But I totally get why people relate to The Breakfast Club. I have not seen Pretty in Pink.
Whoa. I mean, I guess if you don't like really care for movies like that, then it's Pretty in Pink is probably something I'd be like, okay, and then never go back to, like The Breakfast Club. So I guess you like more funny 80s movies since you like Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah, for sure. I like, irreverent comedy. I think just coming of age films in general are really hit or miss for me, because a lot of the time I find them kind of self-indulgent and a little whiny. And that's, I don't know. I've been, fighting that for a while, but there's some coming of age movies I love. Like, for example, Stand By Me, 1986, brilliant coming of age movie. I'm sure there's others.
I've never seen that one.
That's a cool one. It's a Stephen King story it's based on Stephen King's story, The Body, where these kids in like the late 50s, early 60s are going on a journey to see a dead body. And they just kind of find themselves along the way, and they have to, like, they're forced to grow up. And it's a very endearing film. But I think, there's ways to do it. There's wrong ways to do it. And I think a lot of the time it's very repetitive. It's like, I don't know who I am, but I kind of do. And I have to find it. And then I did. But did I learn anything?
Yeah. I mean, Pretty in Pink is just like, who am I going to take to prom? Oh, I found someone. Uh-oh, things go wrong. Oh, things go great again. It's kind of, yeah, I see what you mean.
The stakes are never that high. Like, I don't care who's taking who to prom.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I guess for me, I just really like it because, I don't know, just like being a girl is like, and then relating to the character. So like, you can't really relate if you're not, in their, I don't know, like, I can picture you like being in high school and not really caring about prom, and like, right? Like, did you go?
Surprisingly, I cared a lot about prom.
Did you?
I asked out my crush, and she said yes, and I got to go to prom with my crush. So not a lot of people can say that.
Dang, that's awesome. Yeah. That must have been a really good feeling.
It was yeah. So I don't know. But I think you have a point there where I'm just not the audience. And I get that. I didn't like Lady Bird for the same reason, but I'm not the audience for Lady Bird.
Right. Yeah. There's a specific audience, like people or girls that, are into romance, I guess, fashion, style. I don't know. But yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm sure, these subjects will definitely come up again on this show and our other shows. These are ongoing themes. But back to Bill and Ted. So Bill and Ted was written by screenwriters Chris Matheson and Ed Solomon in 1987. And it was based off a stand-up routine that they did in college. where they played these goofy dudes who were time traveling and kind of talking about historical events that they knew nothing about. And they turned that into a screenplay. It targeted 80s teens, and they knew that some audiences might not understand the vernacular or the humor. The film was a coin toss. It was either going to be a big hit or a huge mistake. Like, this film was either going to really, like, kids were going to relate to it or nobody was going to see it. And it ended up being a hit, which is pretty cool. By the way, Chris Matheson is the son of famous horror sci-fi writer Richard Matheson, who famously wrote I Am Legend, Duel, and many episodes of The Twilight Zone, among other projects. And Ed Solomon was once the son-in-law of famous comedian John Cleese. So these guys come from writing royalty, which is pretty cool. Richard Matheson had a few kids who got into film. And Matheson is a kind of a legend. Did you ever see I Am Legend?
Is that the one with Will Smith?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's really cool how I'm like, you mentioned, have you seen this? And usually I say yes because I've seen these things so close to being a part of the podcast. So like, if I had not seen these this year or the year before, I would say no. But yeah, a lot of these movies I've been seeing like way more recent. So yeah, I really enjoyed that one.
Right on. I have not read the book. I saw I Am Legend once, and I remember thinking, it was all right. I watched The Last Man on Earth with Vincent Price, which is the same story, and I thought that was way better. But it's a story that really hasn't been done correctly on film. I think they keep tweaking it, and they keep not getting it right. And that actually pissed him off quite a lot. It's like his biggest story, and they did a movie version like 5 times, and each time they messed with his story, and every time he's like, why don't you just do my story?
Yeah, I've seen a few zombie, like I saw World War Z before this movie. I was like, that was a pretty big introduction to zombie movies, and I was like I'm like at that point I'm expecting the highest like out of film for zombie movies, and then I see this one, I'm like, cool, this is cool, it's enjoyable. Not as intense as other ones, I think, but yeah.
The thing is, though, they're not supposed to be zombies. They're supposed to be vampires, but they made them zombies for some reason in the new one.
Oh, that's weird. Is that why they come out at night?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like, the whole point of the story is that they're afraid of him. He's the monster in like their world, and they can talk, and they can like do, they have feelings, and they're afraid of this guy. But in I Am Legend, they're just mindless monsters that he blows up with a fucking grenade. It made no sense. The theme is gone.
That would have been a cooler story, I think, if they were vampires.
I have the book. I haven't gotten around to it. I've had it for like 10 years. It's hard to find reading time, with a podcast and grad school and all that. So Chris Matheson, Ed Solomon, writing royalty, met in college, did a stand-up, wrote Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. San Antonio native director Stephen Herrick signed on to direct. And this was his second film, his first being 1986's Critters, which is one of the many ripoffs of Gremlins. They took a different little creature name, they put it on a movie, and they made like Critters and Hobgoblins and Troll and just all these movies.
Not good.
Herrick would follow Bill and Ted with films such as Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, The Three Musketeers, Mr. Holland's Opus, 101 Dalmatians, Holy Man, Rockstar, and Life or Something Like It. Not a bad resume, especially Mr. Holland's Opus. I've heard that's a pretty acclaimed film. And I have not seen either the animated or live action 101 Dalmatians. I have not gotten to that.
Yeah, I am. I mean, I've seen bits and pieces, but yeah, I haven't really seen any of those.
A whole bunch of Disney movies I just have not gotten to. I grew up with like my slate. I had like the ones I watched constantly on tape, and then the other ones I just never bothered with.
Yeah, I like Whenever I grew up, I kind of watched the same movies over and over, like Lion King and just everything we had on VCR. And like if we didn't have 101 Dalmatians, I didn't see it.
I think we had most of the Disney movies on tape just because we bought movies all the time, but I just didn't care. Like some about the 90s ones, I just had those on constant rotation. I love those so much.
Mm-hmm.
And that hasn't really changed. They're still my all-time favorites.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll get to them. So let's talk about the cast. Little known teen actor Keanu Reeves was cast as Ted Logan, the character which would be his big break. Reeves would go on to star in several big budget projects in the 90s, like Point Break, Speed, The Devil's Advocate, and Dracula, as well as indie films like My Own Private Idaho. But it was his turn as Neo in 1999's The Matrix that made him a global superstar. He would star in 2 sequels to The Matrix, with a 4th currently in production. And after a decade or so of lukewarm projects, Reeves would shoot right to the top of the A-list again with 2014's John Wick, which would have 2 sequels also starring Reeves, with 2 more currently in production. Keanu Reeves is one of the most iconic action stars in the world and is widely considered to be the nicest guy in Hollywood. With his charity work, his love for his fans, and his upbeat outlook on life, there's few movie people who don't love Keanu Reeves. So, Keanu Reeves, you said that your intro to him was The Matrix.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty universal. I think a lot of people were first introduced to him through The Matrix. I think that was mine as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's such an awesome movie. We did The Matrix about 6 months ago, and I wish we'd have taken a different approach to it. I feel like we just retold the story, but yeah.
Well, we can always redo it or look back on it, and I would always see pictures and memes of this guy wearing like black glasses and like on the internet. I'd be like, who the hell is this? And people would always say the Matrix dude, and I'd be like, I haven't seen that. And then I watch it and it was the weirdest thing I've ever seen, like at the time. And I was like kind of confused. I'm still kind of confused because I haven't seen it in a bit, but yeah. And then I watched Bill and Ted for this, and then right after that I watched Speed, and I really enjoyed Speed a lot more than I probably enjoyed The Matrix, to be honest. It's probably not a like opinion everyone has, but yeah, I really appreciate that movie. I kind of want to buy it now.
I think a lot of people, Speed is their favorite. I know that. That movie was a big hit. It was very critically acclaimed. Fans love it. Yeah, I think that's a great pick. It's an awesome movie. It's a cool concept. Bus can't go under 50 miles an hour. It's going to blow up. And they turned it into a 2-hour action thriller. That's impressive. Mm-hmm. Keanu Reeves is terrible in Dracula. Have you seen 1992's Dracula?
No.
You don't need to see 1992's Dracula.
Oh, God.
For some reason, it's pretty critically acclaimed. I think Gary Oldman does a decent job as Dracula, but the rest of the cast is terrible. Keanu Reeves is playing a Brit, and he is not good at playing a Brit. His accent is so wonky. It's weird.
Oh, damn.
It's funny to watch him just kind of, try in that one.
Did they just like want him because he was becoming a big star, and they're like, hey, try this accent, and then it failed?
Exactly what happened. After The Matrix, he became huge, but he didn't really do a lot of notable projects. I mean, he did Constantine, which was okay. He was in that really bad The Day the Earth Stood Still remake. And it was just kind of like he was trying to find something. And then he finally found it in 2014 with John Wick, which I think is his greatest film, like without a doubt. As much as I love The Matrix, I fucking adore John Wick.
Okay.
Maybe the best, one of the best crime thrillers I've ever seen. The buildup is perfect. The character is so well written. All 3 movies kick ass. It's perfect. I could rewatch those movies all day.
Okay. Nice. So since I don't watch a lot of action movies and I like Speed, then I'll probably like this one, hopefully.
Probably. It's do you know what it's about?
No idea.
Okay. So it's about this guy whose wife recently passed away from cancer, and he's just kind of, he's sad and he's lonely, and his wife posthumously in the mail sent him a dog to help him grieve because she knew she was dying. And it starts out this very sweet movie about a guy kind of mourning, and then he runs into these thugs and they want to steal his car, so they fuck him up and they take his car. And then you get this idea that this is not a guy you fuck with. Because everyone who finds out, like, oh, you stole John Wick's car, everyone's like, why did you do that? And it's so you learn that this guy is an ex-Russian mob assassin who left the business because he fell in love, but he was the best. Everyone was afraid of him, and now he's back for revenge, and he goes after these thugs, and he just gets back into the life, and it's so good. It's so good. It's done by stunt people, so all the action scenes are like very well thought out. And it made this whole franchise. It was a sleeper hit that now there's 2 more, and they're both as awesome. So I recommend it for sure. It's a really fun watch.
Okay, that sounds pretty cool. I like when I can get attached to a super cool character. Like if it's not an attachable or a guy and I can attach to, then like why would I watch it?
It's so cool with this guy because of what happened. I'm not giving you the whole story of why he's after these guys because it's a pretty shocking moment.
Okay.
But you are going to relate to him for that because there's not a human being on earth who wouldn't. And it's great.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And it was weird to see Keanu come back for a third Bill and Ted this year. Like, what? It was so weird. Like, I never thought it was going to happen. It had been in production hell for like 10 years, and it finally happened. And it's middle-aged Bill and Ted. It's such an odd concept. I haven't watched it yet because I'm still trying to wrap my head around the fact that it's 50-year-old Bill and Ted. But I'll get to it. Child actor Alex Winter was cast as Bill Preston. Winter's acting career never quite took off like Keanu Reeves did. Prior to Bill and Ted, Winter appeared in The Lost Boys and Death Wish 3. So, not really a lot. In recent years, Winter would go on to have a successful career as a documentary filmmaker, directing such docs as Downloading, Deep Web, The Panama Papers, Trust Machine, The Story of Blockchain, Showbiz Kids, and most recently, Zappa, a critically acclaimed documentary biopic of iconic rock musician Frank Zappa. So pretty cool that he found his niche. And it's cool that even after becoming a documentarian, he still came back for Bill and Ted 3.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's like saying I don't know. There's like some people that wouldn't do that. Like this probably doesn't relate that much, but like Drake and Josh, when they were like in the show together, they like spent so much time together, and now they don't even like say like talk to each other anymore. I feel like it's like that's so sweet that they came back.
Well, I heard Drake is like fucking crazy.
Oh,
I think he fled the country after being like accused of sexual harassment.
well.
And before that, he had like an attitude problem. So I think there's a reason they don't talk.
Yeah.
But I think Keanu and Alex Winter stayed in touch over the years because both of them did not need Bill and Ted 3. Alex Winter has a documentary career. Keanu Reeves is Keanu Reeves. They didn't need to do Bill and Ted 3, but they did. And that's pretty cool. I think that's why fans loved it so much, is because it was made out of love.
Yeah, the recipe is love. That's like I'm happy for them.
Me too. Although I got to say, without a beard, Keanu does look about 10, 20 years older. He's got a beard in the John Wick franchise. He shaved it off for Bill and Ted 3, and he looks significantly older, I thought.
So without the beard makes him look older?
Yeah. Yeah, it is weird. It's usually the opposite. And the last guy I want to talk about in the cast is iconic stand-up comedian George Carlin, who plays Rufus, our cool as ice future man. Carlin is one of the most respected and highly regarded stand-up comedians of all time, gaining international acclaim for his 7 Dirty Words bit, which was so raunchy and notorious that it started a censorship case that wound up all the way in the Supreme Court in 1978. And it's a big part of how the FCC kind of determines what you can say on radio and TV and what you can't. A lot of that came out of this case. And his 7 dirty words bit was basically just talking about the 7 dirty words you can't say on television. And he said them on television. Apart from his stand-up, of which he had 14 specials, he appeared in a number of films such as Dogma, The Prince of Tides, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, Scary Movie 3, and Cars. He was also the narrator of the Thomas the Tank Engine show, for some reason. And he hosted the first ever episode of Saturday Night Live in 1975. He died in 2008 at age 71 from heart failure, but this guy's legacy is never going away. George Carlin is considered kind of the greatest comedian who ever lived. And to see him just play Rufus, the time-traveling badass, is awesome. Like, he doesn't really serve much to the plot, but him just being there and like putting on the sunglasses and then just like stepping out. God, I could watch that all day.
Yeah, but you do have to like drink every time he says gentlemen.
For some reason, him go, I don't remember the exchange, but Bill and Ted go, no way. And he goes, yes way. I don't know why, but that always is the first thing I think of when I think of Rufus.
It's funny.
Gentlemen, if you'll permit me to jam with you.
Gentlemen, I just got you some brand new guitars and some babes.
I love when he turns to the camera at the end and he's like, they do get better.
Oh yeah, I like that, how they ended with that.
George Carlin. He's the best. He's the best. There was something so cool about this guy. He was he was one of the first guys to really kind of do like hardcore, unflinching political comedy. He borrowed a lot from, I think, in that respect, from Lenny Bruce. And he didn't give a fuck what people thought. He said whatever the hell was on his mind, regardless of who he offended. And I love that. Like, yeah. And he did a lot of kind of wordplay comedy too. Like, he talked about, famous expressions that don't make any sense and stuff like that. He was good. He was really good.
Sweet.
And like with all that dark shit, he was the guy narrating Thomas the Tank Engine. That just doesn't make sense for the rest of his career. It's like it was community service or something.
Maybe not. Why would he do that? Like, if he's already big. Oh well, maybe his kids liked it or something. Whatever.
I don't think he had kids.
Oh.
Or if he did, I don't know. Maybe he just loved trains.
Yeah, trains, man.
Well, that's all I really want to talk about in regards to the cast. The historical figures are all played by bit part actors who never really left the 80s. Nobody there is really, I would say, notable. They're all good, but nobody really stands out. Like, the only one I really recognized was Socrates. He was the waiter in Scrooged. But that's, no one else is going to know that. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure has an IMDb score of 7.0, Rotten Tomatoes score of 81%. It was a decent hit, grossing about $40 million on a budget of $10 million. It spawned 2 sequels and a cartoon spin-off series. So with that, let's talk about this thing. So I've got some talking points here. Very first thing I want to ask you, Bill or Ted?
No. No. I really like. Okay. I guess I'll say Ted because I just love Keanu Reeves. But like, it's so funny when Bill is like, "Shut up, Ted." Like, that's so funny. But I don't. What about you? I'm gonna say Ted. I love Ted.
You have chosen wisely. I also picked Ted. Ted, there's something so likable about Keanu Reeves. There's just I would love to give this guy a high five.
His hair.
Oh, but they are like, you need both of them for this to work. It really, like, they play off each other so well. They're such dopes, and it just works.
Yeah.
I think the most like the best thing about this film is the dialogue. I think there are so many hilarious lines in this film that just kind of you don't even notice the first time. Like
Yeah.
when they're in class and Ted gets asked who was Joan of Arc and he's like, Noah's wife. Like so dumb. Like,
I like when I think they're like reading from a book or something, and then Bill says, "To know everything, you must know nothing," and then Ted's like, "That's us."
one line I really liked just because of the implication was when they're at the Circle K and Ted, one of them goes, that lady in the car over there said Marco Polo was born in 1275. Like they're just asking people historical questions in the gas station parking lot. That made me laugh. Oh, I think
Yeah.
one of the best lines that just kind of like sets up so much is when the phone booth first shows up and Ted just goes, strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
Yeah, like that's one of the most memorable ones too. Strange things are at foot at the QT.
I love the fact that these two dopes are the most significant human beings in human history. That their like music is so life changing that human society just rewrites their entire way of life according to these guys. Of course, why not?
They're just so amazing, and what is there not to like? They're just so amazing and likable, and who could hate them? There's like no one on this earth that could hate them.
Except Ted's dad for some reason.
I know
Like
what the fuck.
Ted's dad's such a prick, like such a prick in every possible way. That's kind of an ongoing theme in the 80s. A lot of 80s movies have shitty parents.
Really? And like what movies?
Like Ferris Bueller, for instance. I always felt his parents were kind of especially the way they treat like their daughter.
Yeah, wasn't there like a scene in that when his friend, like his dad, did something like to him? I forgot, but like
Yeah, Cameron, his dad owns the car, and the whole time he's thinking that my dad's gonna kill me over this car, and then at the end he's like, "Fuck it, let him try," and hurls the car out the window.
oh yeah, I didn't even know the dude's dad, and I wanted him to do it.
it's rough. I don't know. I might be reading into it too much, but just I feel like I see that a lot in 80s movies. Just parents who don't get it.
Yeah, also like in Pretty in Pink, there's a scene where it's really emotional because the girl's mom like left her and her dad, and like it is a recurring theme. You're not just imagining it.
Okay, that's good. Let's see. So the historical figures that they pick up. Let's talk about these guys. So in order, Napoleon Bonaparte, Billy the Kid, Socrates, Sigmund Freud, Ludwig von Beethoven, Joan of Arc, Genghis Khan, and Abraham Lincoln. Such a weird mixture of characters, but seeing them come into the modern world was just beautiful.
The mall scene.
Oh, it's my favorite part.
I like the scene where they're at the water park, or the French guy is at the water park. He was like, "What is this awesomeness? Woo!" That's how you feel when you go down water slides.
Napoleon's obsession with water slides was just so great. I really liked Joan of Arc hijacking an aerobics class.
Yeah, me too. Like I guess, did she like the idea of like kind of having an army to herself or something?
Yeah, Joan of Arc was a warrior. She was a soldier. She was a military leader. So this was like her new thing. It was cool. They all kind of stayed true to who they were in the modern world. You know, Beethoven found electric keyboards. Genghis Khan was wrecking a sporting goods store. Lincoln was just getting an old timey photo. I love that. Like in the age of like modern photographs, he was still getting an old timey picture.
Yeah. Like, can you imagine like Beethoven just taking over like a music store like Guitar Center and being like, "What is all this?" And then he like takes over the keyboards. That'd be fun.
My favorite, like one of my favorite things is how they constantly mispronounce these people's names. Like they called him Beef Oven and Sigmund Freud and Socrates. That's just funny as hell. They even got Billy the kid to call him Socrates the whole time.
Yeah. I love that.
My favorite line in the film is when they go to pick up Sigmund Freud and Ted goes, "How's it hanging, Freud, dude?" I can't, I have to pause it. I'm laughing so hard. Oh, these guys are dumb, but damn, do they have confidence.
I know.
Oh, and I love that none of the historical figures gripe about this. They're all just like, okay, we're time traveling now. All right. Like they're all cool with this.
I know, that's another great part is they just don't care. They're like, okay, I'm dreaming. Like they're probably just like, I'm dreaming, or someone like put something in my drink, or I'm having like a mental breakdown. I don't know.
Yeah, nobody really protests at all. Not even Genghis Khan. Oh, it's great. Another line I really liked was when they go to get Bill's younger brother, because he was supposed to be watching Napoleon, and they're like, "You ditched Napoleon," and he just goes, "He was a dick." Yeah, okay, that's a valid reason to ditch Napoleon in 1988.
You probably know a lot more about these history guys than I do. I don't really know that much about Napoleon.
Well, I can tell you one thing: he was a dick.
Really?
Weird thing is, though, he wasn't as short as we think. Like the whole, the big thing everyone knows about Napoleon is that he was short. But according, he was only like he was 5'6", which is on the short side, but people weren't exactly, tall back then. That was kind of average height of the 1800s. The only reason we think of him as this like little dwarf guy is because of English propaganda, which was basically saying like, look at this tiny little leader of France. There's no way he can conquer Europe. So, and that all kind of stayed here. It's weird.
Dang, that's interesting.
Yeah. I don't know a lot about these guys. I know a bit. I know Joan of Arc was like, thought that God told her to fight for France. And then once France won the war, they had her executed for being a woman in an army. Like her own people killed her. That's pretty goddamn sad. I know Genghis Khan conquered most of the known world and fought in many battles, had like the biggest harem of women in the world, so much so that most of today's population can trace their lineage back to Genghis Khan.
So like 3 of these guys were dicks: Genghis Khan, Billy the Kid. What, didn't he like murder a bunch of people?
Or Billy the Kid, I have mixed feelings on. And I'll talk about him in a minute because he's got a really cool story.
Okay.
Funnily enough, Khan, after everything he went through, he fell off his horse, wounded himself, it got infected, and he died. That's what killed Genghis Khan. He fell off his horse. That's
wow,
crazy.
That's that doesn't amount to him, but the things he's done. But whatever.
Genghis Khan.
He died.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of movies about Genghis Khan that kind of paint him as this like trailblazer and this warrior, but really he was a psychopath who killed thousands of people. And yeah, I wish he got into a much bloodier death than that. Billy the Kid I might be mixing his like history here for a few of these guys. I'm just kind of rattling off the top of my head. I don't have any notes prepared on any of this. And Billy the Kid was he's considered, one of the most famous outlaws in American history. And yeah, he did commit some crimes. He did kill some people, but a lot of it he was cheated into doing. A lot of it he was told he was going to be pardoned. He got that taken away from him as soon as he turned himself in. Things like that. So like I feel like the deck was stacked against Billy the Kid.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't read any of that. So like, in that case, I like you.
But he did kill some people. So, but it was the Old West. Who didn't kill some people?
Yeah, I'm sure like so many people got away with so many things. If Genghis Khan got away with that, like there's so many other people in the past that got away with so many kills and
Oh yeah.
wonders.
Beethoven was considered, like, everyone kind of hated Beethoven. He was a very sour, angry brute of a person who hated everybody and just kind of did his music in his own way, didn't give a fuck what other people thought, and he died pretty alone. So these people are, yeah, all just weird. It's an interesting bunch.
Yeah. I was gonna ask you, like, one time, my friend and I were playing Would You Rather, and we were like saying, would you rather kill like Genghis Khan or Hitler, and like which one would you like choose to get rid of if you could? And I don't know who did worse. Like what did Genghis Khan do a lot farther worse than Hitler?
That's very much up to individuals. Like I don't even know where to go with that. They're both equally horrific people, but I would definitely get rid of Hitler first.
Okay.
Like, Hitler, yeah, I don't want to go there, but Hitler's a bad person. Yes, that goes without saying. But I feel like because Genghis Khan is 1,000 years ago and Hitler is 60 years ago, we remember Hitler. We know what he did. There's people alive today who remember what he did.
Right.
Genghis Khan is so far removed from modern history that I feel like there's a lot of myths surrounding him that people kind of forget just how much of a monster he was.
Yeah, I'll be completely honest. I didn't even know who he was until I got older because, yeah. And also history books, I guess they didn't really teach us that either. So yeah.
Yeah, history class, we don't cover individuals. It's more of a grander kind of thing. Like, this is the Old West. We do it by the war in America, which is weird. Like, we do, early America, Native Americans, then we do Revolutionary War, and then we do Civil War, and then we do World War I, and then we do World War II, and then we do Vietnam. We separate history by wars, which is kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going all over the place today. This is interesting. So let's talk a bit about the bizarre relationship between Bill and his stepmom.
Whoa.
His like 19-year-old stepmom who he went to high school with. That's such an odd story. And I love at the end when Freud is analyzing Ted and he's like, your father's insecurities, he's projecting them onto you. And Ted's like, whoa. And he asks Bill, like, do you want to lay down? And Bill's like, oh no, I just got a minor Oedipal complex. That's such a great line. That he even knows what that means is great, but that he's aware of that is even better. Good God. For those of you out there who don't know what an Oedipal complex is, it's a very weird mental condition where you have a desire to sleep with your own mother, kill your father, and become head of the household. But most of the time, you kind of stop at sleep with your own mother. It's unfortunate, but it's hilarious in this movie. Let's talk about England and the babes. That whole bit.
Oh yes.
What'd you think of that?
That was great. I like I like how they were trying to like pick out who are we going to take back with us, and then Ted just sees these babes at the castle. He's like, I don't care. I just want the babes. He's like, and then he's like, come on, we got to go. And he's like, all right, fine, let's go. Let's go talk to them. How are we going to talk to them? And then they start fighting in the knight armor, and they're like, metal. What do they say? What did they say? Like your armor's heavy metal.
I love when they're fake, like they start doing Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
Each other. Oh, that was great. I love when Bill thinks Ted is dead and he like goes off on that guy. You killed Ted, you medieval dickweed. Great line.
I didn't I was like thinking, how did he have time? Because he said I got out of the suit before they found me. I'm like, how did you get out of the suit in like 0.5 seconds? Like, okay.
Who knows? It's great. I love when towards the end when they start giving themselves like like you know, pre-orders, like make sure we bring the video camera and like stuff like that. Like they have everything planned out for like the mission. Like after the mission, they'll go back in time and put the keys here and things
Yeah.
like that. And they're just like, here's the keys. I love that worked out.
Yeah, that'd be so cool if I could just like think about what I want to eat tomorrow and then I already have like food in front of me. That'd be cool.
Be crazy. I I would abuse the hell out of a time machine. I would very much screw with the space time continuum if I had access to a time machine. I'm never sitting still for anything. I'm going everywhere.
Where'd you go? Like first. First. Ooh, let's get into this.
Okay. This is going to come up whenever you do a time travel movie. Where would I go first? So, time machine.
Oh,
I have a
wait,
time.
would you alter your life or would you just go back to like see cool stuff?
I would alter the fuck out of my life. I'll tell you
No!
right now. I know exactly what I would do and like when I would do it. There was a time in high school where it was Valentine's Day. I was going to ask out this girl and I got such a bad migraine. I had to leave school. I had to go home. I was so like, no, I was so disappointed. I would go back in time and tell myself to have a banana that morning and fight the migraine. On a grander scale, I would go back and tell myself, invest in Tesla and weed. My dad used to work at Amazon back in the day. So I would go back in time and tell my dad, hey, hold on to those stock options, Dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Apart from bettering myself personally, I would. Oh, damn, I don't know. That's a tough, like, of all the decades I could visit, I would go back in time to 1981. I'd get to enjoy the 80s in my 20s. I get to enjoy the 90s in my 30s. I get to buy stock in Apple and Microsoft and Amazon. And then in my 40s, I would be a billionaire.
Oh, yes.
And I get to enjoy, the 80s heavy metal scene. I could write, like, I could write Indiana Jones. Like, I could write movies I already knew about. Like, that would be the best.
Yeah, that sounds like a good use of your time machine. Like, I wouldn't think that far into it.
I thought about this a lot.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was thinking like, how do you know how to do this? Okay. But yeah, for me, I guess for changing my life, I would definitely quit orchestra and like focus on art because like I don't care about it anymore. Like my parents told me to join orchestra just to see if I would enjoy it. I did, but then after a while it got pretty old for me. So I would just say I would just do something to like tell my parents or like maybe at a certain time just tell them that I don't want to do it anymore or like, do something. Besides that, like just for funds, I would probably just do something fun, like maybe go see something that cool that happened in the past. Maybe go see if I could like go to a time where a movie was being filmed or shot and then go watch how they were shooting the movie, like one of my favorites. Yeah, that's what I got at the top of my head, but since you have so much time to think about it, yeah, I wish I knew. I guess when the moment comes, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. I would go back in time. A good one would be go back in time to like the mid 80s and write Harry Potter.
Bro, you can't do that. That's cheating, Connor.
I would go back. So if I had time to prep, like if I had, like I knew like here's my time machine, I got to bring essentials. I would pack with me so many books, so many screenplays and then go back in time and then say like, hey, look what I wrote.
But how would that change time though? Because if you're writing all those things, what would happen? Like
so it's that kind of time travel rule. So if I go back in time with the book of Harry Potter and I write Harry Potter, then there's no Harry Potter by J.K. Rowling for me to grab and take back to the time. Paradox.
Yeah, oh my God. It would be written by Connor. And then what would happen to your future books? You wouldn't
I'd write those too. Except now they'd sell.
Yeah, that's true. Never mind.
I had a buddy of mine. We talked about this, and he said the weirdest response I've ever heard to this question. He said, I go back in time to the Middle Ages with a Glock and take the whole place over.
A Glock?
With a Glock.
What's a Glock?
Like a gun, like a 9mm.
Oh.
Like you show up in the Middle Ages with a gun, suddenly you're king of the world.
Yeah, but then like, oh my God, people would be like, what is this? And then you'd have to teach them how to use it, right? Like, I mean,
you would just, the way he thought of it was like, I would have the gun and I would shoot anyone who disobeyed me and they would be afraid of my magic wizard powers and they wouldn't, like, they'd give me everything. It was a weird answer to the question.
That's savage. He's the new Genghis Khan.
Basically, yeah.
No. So you guys would like basically use your power to like the max. And I would just be like, hey, I'll just do this.
Well, I mean, if it's a situation where if I impact time, I could destroy time, I'd probably dial it back quite a lot. Like I think if I had like limited amount of, what I could do, what I'd love to do is go back in time to the 60s and see Led Zeppelin in concert.
Yeah. Oh my God. I would go, okay, this is so cringy emo of me, but I would go see My Chemical Romance because they broke up. But yeah.
I don't like to speak ill of my friends, but that's a very terrible use of a time machine. Oh my God. I'd love to see Nirvana. That would be on my time machine bucket list. AC/DC before Bon Scott died. Hendrix, Rolling Stones in their prime, Buddy Holly, Elvis. Like that would, yeah, that's what I would do. I'd do like a time travel world tour.
Like, you're so good at shitting on my time machine wants because now I want to change my answer to Nirvana instead of My Chemical Romance.
Yeah. Nirvana would be tops. I'd want to go see bands that, didn't just break up, but like they're dead.
Yeah, okay, I changed my answer officially.
I'd want to go back in time and like to 1950s Hollywood and be an extra in a movie just to freak out my grandparents. Because one day they're going to watch that movie like now and see me just like, at a dinner table talking to somebody in the background and think like, that guy looks a lot like my grandson. Everyone would be like,
you would not tell them. You wouldn't. That
would be fun. I'd like to go back in time and like hang out with my parents, like when they were my age.
Whoa, that's weird. Okay. I don't know if I would go that far.
That's Back to the Future.
Say something and change what they like envision. Like,
that's exactly the plot of Back to the Future. So yeah, that's exactly what would happen. I would accidentally, they might be on their way to a chain of events that makes me possible. And then I say like, no, let's go get a bagel. And then that whole thing doesn't happen.
Yeah. And then you die. Or I don't know if that's how that works, but.
I hope it's like Back to the Future where you just kind of gradually fade. So you can kind of tell like, oh, I have time to fix this. Instead of like, X-Men Days of Future Past where it's just like pop. And everything's different.
Yeah, or it could be like Infinity War, where you just like blow away like dust in the wind. He's just like it's all life is just dust in the wind, and he's like, "What are you talking about?" And then he just takes a dust, like, yeah.
I don't know. There's so many different time travel movies and different rules. And we'll be talking about that towards the end. But Yeah, it's cool to kind of think about that. Like if I had a time machine, would you rather have a time machine or like the inherent ability to leap through time?
Time machine so that I'm restricted.
That would suck. Like, because if like you could like dream jump and like go to sleep here and wake up in like 14th century Africa.
Oh my god, no. Yeah, definitely a machine. I would hope it's not like a telephone thing. I would rather it be something different. I don't know what. Like maybe touching a cool crystal and like I don't know. Telephone machines kind of I don't know.
I wouldn't want a machine because I don't know how to fix it, and if it gets broken, I'm stuck. I don't have a Doc Brown. I have nobody who can fix my time machine. So I would rather have the built-in power and just learn how to control that. Be kind of cool. Neato. That was fun.
Hero. Like Doctor Strange.
Yeah. Doctor Strange. That would be fun. Be a wizard. So I think the best thing about this film is the message that it conveys. It's a message I think we can all kind of take away, be excellent to each other. I mean, that's just great, treat everybody like a bro. Just be excellent. That's great. That's great advice. It's a great message.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I really liked how he made that up on the spot. I mean, obviously it's a script, but like that's a cool line. Just be excellent.
That like the way they like, one hand on the chest and like one arm in the air, that whole thing, that was improvised on the spot.
Really?
Yeah, it was just something that felt natural to them, and they did it, and it's become like iconic.
Oh my god, that totally works. Because if we just said that, it wouldn't be that as cool. They have a thing. I wish that was my graduation goodbye thing. Like instead of our school hand signal, we could just do that.
That reminded me of the time my dad won student body president, and his whole speech was, "We are the shit," and he won.
His whole speech was that sentence.
That was his speech. Yes, he didn't make any campaign promises. He didn't. He just said like, "We rock," and he got elected.
Oh, that's great.
Oh boy. So here are some Filmgazm facts for Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Number 1, Alex Winter claimed that he gets 2 types of letters from teachers. Positive ones from history teachers for encouraging students to learn about history, and negative ones from English teachers for affecting the way students speak. So I guess a lot of people latched onto this and started talking like Bill and Ted, and they started putting it in their English papers, and English teachers did not like that.
Whoa, really?
I guess.
Like, what's wrong with having positive words, right? Like, I guess if you're an English teacher, like, this is stupid, but
Mrs. Jones, I hereby prepare for you this most bodacious essay. Like, I can see how that would get on my nerves.
Bro, I would have a bunch of fun reading that. I would like keep wanting to read it. Like, who wouldn't want to keep reading that? You don't want to be like, I present this essay of adequate info. Actually, that's still Bill and Ted talk.
I think it reminds me that every movie is somebody's favorite movie. So somebody out there, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure is their all-time favorite, hands down. And they talk like this all the time.
I want to meet that person.
So do I. I've heard people do this. Not like kind of ironically, but like there are some people who just, they use far out and bodacious and righteous like in their everyday dialogue, and that's cool.
Yeah. They like, but today it's more like dope and like what else?
I don't know. I don't really, school's kind of where that develops. So like after you're out of school, you're not really part of the conversation in that terms anymore. Like, I don't know. My cousins are probably saying shit that I've never heard of.
Like, you're so sus or stuff like that.
Yeah, I've heard that. I don't know what the hell that means.
Sus?
Yeah.
It means suspicious. basically. Like if you're downstairs at 3 a.m. and your bro is down there, he'd be like, "Why are you being so sus?" Like,
It might just be the English major in me, but I don't like that at all. Ugh, I know. Yep, I'm sounding like an old man now. I know that. Number 2, the phone booth time machine was given away as a contest prize by Nintendo Power magazine, which was promoting Bill and Ted's excellent video game adventure. The video game was a huge flop, but some lucky bastard out there got the phone booth. That's cool.
Wait, what phone? Sorry, you said like they won a phone booth?
Like the one from the movie, like the time machine, they won it.
Oh
like,
my god!
The prop to promote a video game.
What kind of what? How would that fail? Maybe just how it was made or something.
No, it's just like the video game didn't like that failed, but the prop, I'm sure, was fine. But what are you gonna do with a full size phone booth? Like, where are you gonna put that?
You have to have a mansion or like a cool movie like theater. I know in one of my old houses, we had a little mini theater in our house, but still.
That's awesome. I saw one time in online the coolest home theater setup I've ever seen. It was so it was a bookshelf, and then there's this bust on the bookshelf. You lift it up. There's a button. You push the button. The bookshelf opens to reveal a Batcave inspired movie theater, like Batman's hideout. And it was covered in Batman movie posters. It had a giant, like wall size movie screen, 3 really comfy looking big chairs, a popcorn machine, and like a shelf of movies. And I was like, I want it. I want it now.
Whoa. That sounds like something you would have.
If I could afford a house big enough to build a in the walls movie theater, I would do it.
Wait. That theater is from the future, and that is your theater. I just know it.
Wow. So that's me. So I was looking at my house.
Yeah, it came to you. It came back to you.
That's crazy. How, you know what's weird? If time really does, snap back instantly, there could be time travel all the time and we would never know it. Like, yeah, like literally it could just happen right now. And my phone has been white the whole time, but now it's black. And to me, it's always been black, but maybe it hasn't. That's freaky.
What if I am from the future talking to you right now? Like,
you could be. I don't know. That's crazy. I think about that sometimes. Like, if time travel exists in the future and they're coming back here and they're changing things, to us, it's just the way it's always been. Bonkers.
oh my god, what if they change the colors? So like that red apple is like used to be blue, but they changed it to red.
That's such a weirdly specific thing to travel back through time for. Like, my life's goal is I want to go back in time and change colors.
It's actually cool. It's like
oh, that's cool. Possibilities are endless. Number 3, in the original script, the time machine was a 1969 Chevy van. The filmmakers thought that this was too similar to Back to the Future, so they changed it to a phone booth, apparently unaware or unconcerned that Doctor Who has been using a police telephone box as the time machine for 50 years. Because they had a car, Bill and Ted picked up way more historical figures than they did in the final film. And they fit quite a lot of people in that phone booth in this movie.
You know what would have been really cool if like maybe the time machine wasn't a phone booth and it was like something related to rock somehow? That would have been added more to the story. Like, I don't know what. Maybe if they played their guitars and they went back in time, that would have been cool. Yeah.
That would have been cool if they could actually play the guitar.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm sure with the van, it was gonna be like a rockers, roadie van, like kind of like the brothers' van in Onward. I don't remember the name of the van. It had a name. It was like such a big moment. It's been a while. But
The Loaded Diaper Van from Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
I've never seen that.
Oh, the name of their band is called Loaded Diaper.
A terrible band name. It's not as good as Wild Stallions, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's a cooler name.
Wild Stallions. Awesome. Number 4, and I'm very glad they didn't do this. Originally, the plot was to have Bill and Ted visit and accidentally cause all of history's greatest tragedies, including the sinking of the Titanic and the crash of the Hindenburg. Nope, that would have ruined this.
That would have made things so dark because what the hell? It would have been such a disgrace to all those people. But like, that's like some dark humor there.
Yeah. I heard a theory that the movie Titanic, Jack is a time traveler. I've heard like there's a theory that the reason I didn't look into it because I thought that's stupid, but I saw that headline.
Oh, okay.
I don't have anything else to say about that. It just popped into my head. There was a cartoon series made in 1990 called Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures. Reeves, Winter, and Carlin all returned to voice their respective characters for the first season, but the cast was replaced when the show switched networks. Why? I don't know. It's a bad idea. It only lasted 21 episodes, received mixed reviews. And I've never seen that. A lot of 80s and 90s movies, when they were successful, they became cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that happened quite a lot, and most of them are really bad.
Like Batman or what?
Beetlejuice is a cartoon in the 90s.
Really?
That's one. Dumb and Dumber was a cartoon series for a bit. The Ghostbusters, that was a big one. So any movie that was like a little bit hinted towards kids, we became a kids movie. The Mask, a lot of Jim Carrey.
Scooby-Doo? No.
That was already a cartoon.
Oh.
But trying to think of other ones. The Addams Family, that was one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just odd. So let's talk about the 2 sequels. The first sequel was 1991's Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. The film sees Bill and Ted facing off against evil robot versions of themselves from the future and outwitting the Grim Reaper himself, played by William Sadler. It received mixed reviews upon release. And I saw this when I was like 8 because we got it. It was a deal that Pizza Hut was doing where you buy like a large pizza and you get a free movie. And they had like 4 or 5 movies and it was a random draw. And we got a little sleeve that had a DVD of Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. And we watched it. And I hadn't seen the first one yet, so I was very lost. And I remember thinking, it's weird that the Grim Reaper is here. And that's all I remember of that movie is the Grim Reaper.
That is the coolest thing. Hearing that Pizza Hut gave away movies. That's so cool. Like, do we even give away like kids meal toys anymore? Because I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's still a thing. It's just the toys have gotten crappier.
Yeah.
I wish that, how cool would it be? Like if Pizza Hut still had that. You buy a large pizza, get a free movie. That's the best. I would go to Pizza Hut all the time.
Yeah, they can do old movies. I would still like it. Like, it doesn't have to be new movies because obviously those are like, $20, 25. Like, especially with Blu-ray, they're like more and more expensive. But remember when Blu-ray was new?
I do. I remember those days. I remember when they said like they do not scratch, and that was a lie. That was a big fat lie because I've had to replace several Blu-rays because of scratches. It sucks. But
that sucks for you because I've never scratched a Blu-ray before.
Oh, it's not me scratching the Blu-rays. It's people I let borrow the movie who bring it back with a big fat gash. That's happened a few times.
No. Well, okay. Well, I'll never do that to you. I promise.
My copy of An American Werewolf in London, huge scratch on the, I was so disappointed. I went to watch it and it just started skipping and I'm like, Blu-ray is not supposed to do that. What's going on? And yeah, the worst one though, is disc 2 of my extended Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring Blu-ray. It's a movie that's so long it's stretched across 2 discs, and the second disc is scratched. So I
Oh
can't just go buy a copy of disc 2. Like, I'd have to buy the whole set again, and that's like an $80 purchase.
man, people are like, "Ooh, a new disc from Connor. Let me take out my knife I got here." Screech. Okay, it's ready to be returned to Connor now.
Feels like that sometimes. It really does. I know it's not on purpose. It's just like, why? Ugh. The worst one ever was it was a PlayStation 3 game I bought. I bought Rock Band 2 for like $10 at GameStop. It was used. I come home, I put it on the table. I was gone maybe 3 minutes. I come back, and my little cousin, who at the time was like 2, had taken it out of the case and was just playing, like sliding it across the floor like it was a little toy car. I was like, no, I never got to play the game.
Ooh, shiny. Screech, screech.
I looked at it and it was like, oh, not even, yeah, I tried playing it and it wasn't even, it was like, is this a disc or a piece of cheese? What do you got? It's the worst. So I'm very careful with my movies these days, but it does happen. Oh,
I need to tell you, like yesterday, I was just hanging out. My brother comes in my room. He's like, "Hey, Julie, do you have Alien Covenant?" And I was like, "Yeah, why?" And he was like, "Well, I want to watch it with my friend. Can I borrow it?" And I was like, "God, please, please be careful. This is like a collector's DVD thing because it opens up into a book, and inside of the book is the DVD. So it's like really nice." And I was like, "Please, for the love of God, don't put any ketchup on this," because I know he likes Whataburger. And he eats lots of fast food with his friends. I was just like, please. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm so sorry.
It's safe. I have it back, safe and sound. But yeah.
That's good. That's good. There was a point, like when all of my cousins I'm the oldest one, so all of my cousins have been, to me, young my whole life. So, and they always wanted to watch, Connor's stuff. Connor's got the coolest stuff. Let's watch it. I want some of his stuff. So I have had to be very protective of my films over the years. I have lost so many movies and video games to my cousins.
Oh, no.
Now they're all like practically adults. The youngest one is 12, so they get it now. But there was a time when it was a nightmare. The next sequel came out just last year, 2020's Bill and Ted Face the Music. Like I said, it's been in production hell for decades. Finally saw Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter, now in their 50s, return, playing middle-aged Bill and Ted, who are now fathers, but are still trying to write the hit song that will one day save the universe. And this one received critical acclaim, with many fans saying it lived up to the hype. Grim Reaper in that one, too. And I wish George Carlin was alive to be in that, because I'm sure he would have jumped at that. Mm-hmm. But I'll get to these eventually. I've heard good things about this one. There hasn't been a lot to choose from this year for obvious reasons. So when there was a release, everyone kind of went, crazy over it. And I didn't want to watch it because I hadn't seen the second one yet. So I like to do these things in order.
Yeah, we'll get to it. It's like better late than never,
Yeah. So I give Bill and Ted an 8. It's highly entertaining, super dumb in all the best ways. Makes me laugh harder each time. Yeah, it's great. How about you?
Man, I'm trying to it's hard to rate this one because it's just like it's not like a movie that's trying, I mean, I like a good whoa, holy shit kind of movie. It's just like a fun one. So I feel like for fun movies, you have to rate them different. So I'll give it an 8. Yeah.
I agree, though. I agree with that big time. An 8 for a hardcore drama, very different from an 8 for a goofy comedy. There's different levels of that. I agree with that big time. Yeah, it's hard to, because I gave a 10 to Judgment at Nuremberg, which is this super depressing movie about the Nazi trials after the Holocaust. I thought that was great. But I also gave a 10 to Toy Story, which I love because it's funny and it reminds me of my childhood. And I gave a 10 to Avengers Endgame because it blew my mind. So there's different things go into my decision making on each of those scores.
Yeah, like, so I guess if you want to rate this one, you have to think, oh, this is a comedy, so you have to fit it into the comedy section. So like for a 10 in the comedy for me would probably be like Scott Pilgrim versus the World or something. But yeah.
Yeah, cool. What's a good what comedy did I give a 10 to? Anchorman. Yeah, I love Anchorman. So to close out the show, I thought we'd talk about this article I found on Collider titled "The 15 Best Time Travel Movies Ever Made." So let's see if they're right about this. So we're going to talk about this. We're going to go through each of the 15 entries, talk about the film if we are familiar with it, talk about the method of time travel, and whether or not we think it deserves a place on this list. Number 15, Primer. I can already tell you, no, this does not deserve a place on this list. Primer is one of the most boring films I've ever seen in my life. And I know there are fans out there of this, but let me tell you this right now. Engineering majors should not make movies. Nobody knows what the hell they're saying except other engineering majors.
I can see that.
I had a friend of mine who I think at the time was an engineering major, made me watch this. And it's a film about these two guys who are college guys who accidentally build a time machine. And I guess people like scientists have said it's the most scientifically accurate time travel movie ever made. I don't know. I don't know the physics behind this yet. But all I know is the movie is incredibly dull because the dialogue is all like scientific jargon. So I'm going to go with no on Primer. Have you heard of this movie?
No, and like sounds like it's just for engineers, so I guess no.
Then the guy did a follow-up film called Upstream Color, which she also made me watch. And I think I fell asleep 3 times in that one. Like, that one was so... I don't want to... Yeah. I go any further, she might get mad at me. Number 14, The Terminator. So The Terminator, the infamous kind of glass ball time travel where only organic matter can travel through time. That's why the Terminator has an it has a flesh over exoskeleton. Have you seen the original Terminator?
No, just Judgment Day.
Right on. That's the better one. But the OG Terminator is pretty hardcore. It's more of a horror film than a sci-fi thriller. Like, it's pretty dark and creepy. But time travel movie, I don't know if I'd put it on the 15 time travel movies. 15 like sci-fi movies, action movies, sure. But time travel movies, I don't know about that. 13, About Time. This was a rom-com from like 2010. I remember this. I know nothing about this film. I didn't even know it was a time travel movie.
Oh, this is a romantic movie?
Yeah, starring Donald Gleason, Bill Nighy. It's directed by Richard Curtis, who did Love Actually and Pirate Radio. Yeah, I have no idea what this is about.
I heard this one was good. Someone told me this one was good, so I'm going to check it out.
I'm going to look up a plot synopsis just so I can get like a general idea. Let's see. About Time. Oh, it's from 2013. Rachel McAdams. At the age of 21, Tim discovers he can travel in time and change what happens and has happened in his own life. His decision to make his world a better place by getting a girlfriend turns out to not be as easy as you might think. Okay. Fairly original. I can see how that would be kind of endearing. I'll have to give this one a watch. Number 12, Back to the Future Part 2. Yeah, this would be higher on my list, but I'm biased with Back to the Future.
So is the third one about cowboys or the second one?
The third one is in the Old West. The second one is a little all over the place. It's not everyone's favorite. It starts out by going to the future. Then it goes back to the 80s. Then it goes back to the 50s. And then part 3 happens. But I've seen this movie well over 100 times, so I have the plot memorized, so it doesn't confuse me in the slightest. But I get why, newcomers would be a little flummoxed. But I think this movie's great because it really showcases the consequences of time travel and how if things fall into the wrong hands, the entire world will suffer for it. And Back to the Future 2 shows that more than most films, I think. So definitely on this list, but I would have it higher.
Is it because you're just like a really huge fan?
Extremely huge fan. All 3 of those films are beautiful to me. I love them to death. Oh, number 11. Oh, Idiocracy. Oh boy, Idiocracy. I think this is one you should put on your list. This is one of the funniest damn movies I've ever seen.
Okay.
It's about a guy who's just an average dude. Like his name is literally Joe. He's Average Joe. He gets put into a military project experiment to be frozen for a year, and then they'll get him out in a year and determine, how do you feel, so they can like hibernate their best soldiers for when war comes. But the program gets shut down. They forget about Joe, and he is frozen for 500 years. When he wakes up, he's the smartest man on Earth because everyone has gotten incredibly stupid because of de-evolution. Our culture has become so just absolutely stupid that everyone on Earth is a moron, and they think Joe is a genius. It is the funniest. It's so great. It was filmed mostly in Austin, and it's just, I can't sing this film's praises enough. It's so dumb, but it's so funny.
Is it, so it's a comedy?
Yeah.
Or, this sounds great. Like, I could see this actually happening in real life.
That's the problem. Everyone's kind of said like it's turning into a documentary because we're all getting stupider.
We are.
Just the way that they talk is so like, they're all kind of mumble and just like say every other word. And there's not really anything. Like they talk like that. And whenever he talks like normally, they're like, I don't understand you. And his friend's name is Frito. The president's name is Dwayne Elizondo Mountain Dew Herbert Camacho. It's so great.
Herbert Camacho.
I don't know if I'd really list this as a time travel movie. I guess because he got frozen. I don't know. But it's great. Number 10, Looper. Looper is pretty cool. That's a neat idea. It's about this guy who works as a looper, and his job is he kills victims sent by the mob into the past. Like the mob in the future has time travel, and they send people they want dead into the past, and then he shows up at the targeted location and kills them. That way, there's no cleanup involved. But then one guy gets loose and goes into the past and takes revenge, and it's the guy who is the looper. It's his older self who got loose, so he's like hunting himself. And
what the?
it's a pretty bitchin' movie. I thought it's Bruce Willis and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and it's by the same guy who did Knives Out. Did you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Same guy.
Wow. Okay, but sounds clever, and I like Joseph, so I like his movies. So I'll probably like it.
This was cool because it raises an ethical question of like, how far would you go to save the future? Like, would you do something horrible if it meant saving millions of lives? So, I don't know, Pretty cool. Number 9, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
What? No, it's not. This is not. No.
The Time Turner. That counts.
Yeah, but like for a sequence of the movie,
I agree. I think they're stretching it here. But I thought that was pretty neat.
That was cool. That was like one of the coolest scenes.
The Time Turner. Having that in the franchise raises so many questions of like, why didn't they use that all the time?
Oh, I didn't think about that till now.
Like, you can't introduce time travel into a movie like that and then just never talk about it again.
Yeah, like, so this makes me want to read the book because, like I think it was in the book, and so yeah, why didn't they someone go back in time to save Harry or something, or not save him, but like do something to avoid what happened and everything.
Well, I think the biggest one would be in Goblet of Fire when Voldemort comes back and Cedric dies and everybody's like, oh shit, here it comes. Harry should have just gone to Hermione and said, give me the time turner, reversed it like 3 hours, and never let that happen.
Right.
It just, it's tough to, time travel stories are the toughest to write because you really have to think of so many different plot holes you have to close.
Yeah, like in Endgame, so many people are like, oh, what a, this is a plot hole. This is a plot hole. You messed up. Like,
Yeah. I thought Endgame did it pretty tight. I thought the way they explained it was like, you're not changing the future, you're just creating a new one. I thought that was very smart, like a very cool way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think doing that kind of closed off the plot hole conversation, but people still found them.
Yeah.
Number 8, Star Trek 2009. So the time travel in this one is a big old space black hole. And Nero and his Romulans go back in time in this hole and they kill Kirk's father and change the whole timeline and Star Trek. It's a cool movie.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I don't know if I'd really label this a time travel movie. It's got elements of time travel. It opens with time travel, but it's not really essential to the plot. And there's not really a device. I don't know. I don't know what the rules are, but that movie rocks. And I'm not really a Star Trek guy at all, but I thought that movie kicked ass.
I hope a certain movie is on this list. If not, I'll tell you what it is.
Well, let's see. We got 7 left. Number 7, 12 Monkeys. A lot of people love this movie. I thought it was kind of a letdown. 1995, Bruce Willis and Brad Pitt. A guy is living in a future that's decimated by plague. I can relate. Is sent back in time to prevent the plague from happening. And he's been told this guy, Brad Pitt, was a terrorist who unleashed the plague, but then turns out that's not true. And he has to figure out like what really caused this plague and how do I stop it? Sounds great. But I thought the execution was not done very well. But then again, it's been like 10 years since I saw this, so maybe I should give it another shot.
Never heard of it. Yeah, I feel like a lot of these I think I've seen. If you're gonna say the movies I think you're gonna say, then I can say I've probably seen half of them, but most of them maybe not.
Well, let's find out. Number 6, Edge of Tomorrow. I hated this movie. Everyone loved it. I thought this was terrible, but no one agrees with me. Like nobody is on my side with this one. It's
the recent one.
This was in 2014. Tom Cruise is like a shitty soldier who is afraid to die for his country or his world or something. And they're fighting these aliens and then he gets killed. But the way he gets killed causes him to come back to life at the beginning of the previous day every time he dies. So it's like Groundhog Day. And over the course of him, constantly dying, he gets better at being a soldier. He learns to fight, learns to care, and takes on the enemy. And it sounds cool again. But I don't know. I didn't like the ending. I thought it was kind of goofy. I didn't like the character. But,
yeah. So like, I don't like Tom Cruise at all. I don't like any of his movies. So remember how earlier we were talking about action movies? He represents the action movies that I hate because I don't really connect with him. I don't like his character most of the time. And it's just like, he's just like the character. It's like, I'm so cool. Haha, I can do this. I can get the girls, blah, blah, blah,
Fair enough. Tom Cruise is an acquired taste. I don't particularly like him in action films. I think his drama, he's amazing in. I think he's an incredible actor, but I think he's a terrible person.
Yeah.
Like Born on the 4th of July, A Few Good Men. I thought he was great in Tropic Thunder. He's good, but I agree that his action movies are kind of the same movie every time.
Yeah.
But I did think the last 3 Mission Impossible movies I thought were pretty badass. but not really because of him, because of everybody else.
Okay.
Like Fallout, you had Henry Cavill do that like, lock and load thing before he started punching. Like, are you kidding me? That was badass. That was awesome. Every fight scene should start like that. Edge of Tomorrow. Yeah, not a fan. Number 5, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Party on.
Yep. I will say yes.
I'm very glad this made the cut. Number 4, Planet of the Apes.
Like which one?
The original one.
So I will say yes. I think the whole concept is time travel, sort of, because it's dealing with what would happen if this happened, kind of playing. I think it's a play with time, kind of.
I agree. I think it's very smart because you don't know it's a time travel movie until the last like shot of the film. And then that makes you kind of think like, oh shit, this whole time they've been on Earth. What? So yeah, I agree. I think that's a pretty solid time travel movie. I do not really care for Charlton Heston. I think he's kind of a dope. I don't really think he's that good of an actor. But the movie's really cool. It's revolutionary for the makeup and just what they've managed to create with this.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3, Terminator 2, Judgment Day.
Woo!
Kick ass.
I saw this when I was young. Like, this is one of the few movies that my parents let me watch, and I'm glad they let me watch it. Yeah.
I saw this way before I saw the first film. This was I saw this for the first time when I was, I think, 8 years old, because we were in Texas for my mom flew us down here for the Dazed and Confused 10th anniversary party thing they were doing in Austin. And so we were hanging out with my uncle and his girlfriend at the time, and we all were at her house for dinner, and we rented a movie from Blockbuster. That's how long ago this was.
That's how old you are, Connor. Just kidding. I remember I used to watch Blockbuster too. So
well, the movie we rented was Terminator 2. And I was immediately like, this is the best movie I've ever seen. This is awesome. And then from there, I was just like, I got my own copy when we got back to Maryland. And I just thought this movie was bitching. And I think it's the best Terminator movie. I think it's maybe my favorite action movie of the 90s. And that is saying something.
Yeah.
And it's just so cool. It's aged incredibly well.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Top 2. Number 2, Groundhog Day.
I've never seen this.
Groundhog Day is a very funny movie. It's about a douchebag weatherman named Phil who only cares about himself, doesn't care about his coworkers or anybody in this town. He's sent to Puxatawney, Pennsylvania for Groundhog Day to cover the groundhog seeing his shadow. And then he wakes up, he goes to bed in his hotel, he wakes up and it's Groundhog Day again and again and again. And he wakes up every time he goes to bed, he wakes up and it's Groundhog Day. So the day plays out exactly the same, and he has to figure out how to escape this time loop. And the way he does is by being a better person. And it's a very sweet movie. It's crazy because he tries to kill himself several times, still wakes up in the bed. It's bonkers, but it's hilarious, especially when he has that phase of like, there's no tomorrow, so I'm not giving a shit anymore. I'm doing whatever I want. And he just goes crazy in this town. Great movie.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
And then once he starts realizing, maybe there's a reason I'm here, and he starts, asking his coworkers about their kids and, helping people out with stuff. And it's very sweet. It's very sweet to see him become a good person.
He is kind of forced to, or is he?
Yeah, he is 100% forced to. But, once he's out, he still keeps being a good person.
Good.
I think. But he's in there for like 10,000 years. Like, he wakes up so many times. Like, somebody did the math, and he's in there for like a very long time, which means that now that he's out of the rotation, now that he's on a new day, I don't think he can cope. Like, he's expecting life to be the same. How is he going to be able to cope with new things?
Yeah.
I don't know. I know you're not supposed to think about these things, but I always think about these things.
Like, there are no rules to your thoughts.
Groundhog Day. Interesting. And number 1, Back to the Future. Yep. I win.
You win.
You can't do a top 10, top 15 of time travel movies and not have this in like at least the top 2.
Yeah, I'm guessing this list is older because there are a lot more today, like Christopher Nolan movies, like those kind of time. So I guess this list is kind of older.
This was published June 9th, 2020.
What? Are you kidding me? Who is this person?
Do you consider Interstellar a time travel movie?
Yeah, that was the one I was like waiting for, but it's okay.
I don't know if I consider that a time travel movie.
It's yeah, like you don't really realize it's time travel until the end. Like they mention, oh, time moves slower here in space, but they just kind of mention it. They don't say, like, they don't show a lot of what actually happens till the end and stuff.
Yeah, true. I don't know. I think of Interstellar as more of a family drama than anything else because of the way McConaughey is forced to, give everything up to do this. And just him watching his family. Like that's such a devastating scene.
Oh, like the bookshelf scene?
No, like when he's watching like videos by himself and he starts sobbing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's really sad. The beginning made me cry a lot. Like, I think it was because of the music, man. That music.
Oh yeah, Hans Zimmer did a great job with that score. One time travel movie that never really gets discussed because it's such a lesser known is a film called Time After Time from 1979. Mm-hmm. It's about H.G. Wells, the author who wrote The Time Machine. In this story, in Time After Time, he's an actual inventor who built the time machine. And the time machine is stolen by Jack the Ripper. And he takes it to the modern age. And H.G. Wells follows him to like 1970s New York or something and has to fight and like find and stop Jack the Ripper in modern England or New York, wherever it was. And he falls in love with a woman and like she doesn't believe him. And it's a cool movie.
Is that like a horror? Like, I've never seen Jack the Ripper before.
Well, Time After Time is more of a sci-fi adventure. Nice. If you want horror with Jack the Ripper, 2001's From Hell. There you go. That's scary, Jack the Ripper. Oh, this was fun.
It went by really fast because of time.
Yeah. Time flies when you're talking about time travel. Thanks for listening, everyone. Had a blast with this one. I want to thank the entire Filmgazm Productions team, Julie Cervantes, Austin Johnson, Caleb Leger, Josh Allred, Juwan Carter, and Andrew Bachman. And I want to thank Ryan Leone for our awesome theme music. And thanks to all you guys who tune in every week to hear us talk about weird movies. Couldn't do this without you guys. Next week, we go back to horror. Kinda. And one of my all-time favorites. Next Tuesday is my birthday. So I chose an epic horror fantasy that has just gotten better with age. In the year 1923, an Egyptologist, her pickpocket brother, and a charming adventurer accidentally unleash a powerful ancient mummy upon the sands of Egypt. Can Rick O'Connell and Evelyn Carnahan destroy the powerful Imhotep before he unleashes the fury of the underworld upon the earth? Find out next week in the 1999 remake of The Mummy. Very excited.
Yes.
Don't miss our look into the neo-noir classic Chinatown on Oscar Sunday this weekend, or our dive into the Netflix original Pieces of a Woman on the sneak preview on Monday. Until then, be excellent to each other. And party on, dudes.
Party on.